Welcome once again to Channel 18, and today is Wednesday, the first of the month, so to speak, and our guest is Michael Lack, the Director of the Harwich Conservation Trust. And Michael, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I had a great Thanksgiving. Thank you for asking. It's hard to believe we're already into December.
It is.
And in the home stretch of HCT's 25th anniversary year.
That's right. I knew you had your 25th anniversary. Yeah. Any big surprises coming at the end?
Well, you know, we're trying to raise the money we usually do for sustaining our land-saving work. Usually we have a big year-end fundraising effort.
I hit your mail.
You got that? Oh, okay, well, you know all about it then. Yeah, so we're in the middle of that effort. It's interesting this year because we're not only obviously raising funds to support our operations, our land-saving operations, as we do every year. This is, again, an important time of year for us in that regard. But at the same time, we're also continuing to raise funds to help purchase that 49-acre landscape, the Pleasant Bay Woodlands project. We have until August to complete that project, but you know, we're doing both at the same time, which is a lot for you know, for the
this time of the year.
It is. It is. So you know, we ask if people have year-end giving plans to consider us. We know there are absolutely many terrific and important causes to support. So we hope we're among them.
Yes, very good. And you have a boundary quest that you're working on as well?
Boundary Quest volunteers have started up. Now, what is Boundary Quest? I'll get to that in a moment, but first I'll talk about you know, why it's important for us as Harwich Conservation Trust or any local land trust to know where the property boundaries are. You know, people, as we just mentioned a moment ago, are donating funds to Harwich Conservation Trust for us to invest in these important natural areas, to preserve them permanently. You know, you see places like this red maple wetland in full autumn splendor, that photo donated by Farley Lewis, who actually lives in Barnstable. We have a lot of support, not only in Harwich, but across the Cape. And you have places like this, the Bank Street Bogs Nature Preserve, 66 acres in the heart of Harwich Port, with Cold Brook that runs through that preserve all the way to Saquatucket Harbor on Nantucket Sound. So we have wildlife habitat, we have a water quality protection element there with Saquatucket Harbor. You have Coysbrook Woodlands shown here. This photo contributed by Vince DeWitt, Harwich local. Wonderful photography donated by Vince. But you have trails through Coysbrook Woodlands, another one here of Coysbrook Woodlands, winding through woodland pine oak trees and red maple wetland and Atlantic white cedar wetland, a globally significant habitat with views like this across the Herring River Marsh. Herring River being the second largest river system on the Cape.
Really?
Yeah, providing an important migration route, we know, for its namesake fish, the herring or alewives. So we have all those places that we know contribute to our quality of life here in Harwich on Cape Cod. And so the work doesn't stop after we've either acquired these lands through purchase or, fortunately, through many land donations from conservation-minded donors or through conservation restriction. The work doesn't stop there. We have to do our due diligence and understand to the best of our ability where the property corners are, where the boundary lines are, so that we can take care of those lands on into the future. That's our responsibility as a local land trust.
Now, when you identify those areas, do you put sticks, or do you put something there?
This team.
Do they stay? Do they stay there?
For the most part, yes. This team, made up of all volunteers at Harwich Conservation Trust, is incredible at what they do. They come together weekly for a morning each week from October roughly through April. That's, of course, intersects well with when the leaves are down, right? So they can see farther into these properties and better identify, more easily identify the lines. So they've got to use a combination of treasure hunting skills in a way, looking for these 4 by 4 inch by 4 inch, or rather more 6 inch by 6 inch concrete boundary markers that can be hidden under leaves.
They don't always really identify the property, though.
Well, that's just it. You've got to identify where those corners are in relation to abutting properties. And some may have bounds that may look like your property line, but you've got to not only find these bounds out in the field, out in the landscape, but then reconcile them with any plans of land that may have been completed by surveyors or engineers on record at the Registry of Deeds. So they've got to use quite a bit of critical thinking skills and field observation work to locate these corners, locate these property boundaries. And we've got some great photos of these volunteers in the field over the years. You can see sometimes they use a tool such as a transit there on that tripod in the background. And then they've got to run some numbers often with the bearings provided on some plans, or even cite a line to figure out whether they're on the right track. Maybe there isn't a plan of record for some of these properties, which is the case for many of them. And so they've got to estimate the line to the best of their ability. And when we're as certain as possible as to the corner or line, you could see some of these places are pretty thick with vegetation. That is just the gloved hand of one of our volunteers putting in a stake along one of the property boundaries of the lands protected by Harwich Conservation Trust. So they are out in the thick of it right there in the capbriar and the other understory vegetation that they've got to make their way through. And then in some cases, what we do where it's called for is we will mark the property boundaries, again the ones we're most certain of, with these discrete 4-inch by 4-inch aluminum boundary marking signs. And so that people, when they return to these places, including our Boundary Quest team, volunteers and future property monitors, and of course neighbors and other passersby, they'll know that this is land protected by Harwich Conservation Trust. So getting back to your question of how it's done. So they're out there in the field finding these boundary lines. Then they're marking in the field with discrete half-inch diameter PVC pipe, okay, at the corners. And on that pipe, it's marked with a permanent marker. The corner with a numeric code, so it might say HCT1 is this corner, HCT2 is this corner, HCT3 is this corner, right? Then what they do is they take a plan of land and they'll mark on that plan of land the corresponding HCT and number code. So HCT1 on this corner, HCT2, HCT3. And we might see an aerial map in one of our next visuals here on the screen, and it'll give you a sense of how many corners and lines these volunteer Boundary Quest intrepid surveyors are out there trying to identify. So there it is. There's an example. This is a terrific example of multiple properties protected over time by Harwich Conservation Trust and in collaboration with the town and state. Just to locate you geographically, roughly in the center left of the screen is Lothrop Avenue running north-south, one of the most scenic roads in Harwich, if not on the Cape, connecting, of course, Great Western and Old Main, north of that, down to 28, right? So on the left side, or on the west side of Lothrop Ave, we have HCT's Coysbrook Woodlands. That was preserved back in '97 through early 2000s by virtue of an initial purchase, thanks to many donations, and then subsequent gifts and acquisitions. Wonderful trails running through that area. On the east or right side of Lothrop Avenue, looking at this map, what you have outlined in yellow is one of the more recent acquisitions a few years ago by the Trust to knit together, to create a wildlife corridor between the green on the north, right there you see a donation by Mary Hawks to HCT back in 2000, with the 22 acres on the south And by preserving that area, that roughly 9 acres outlined in yellow, through a bargain sale purchase, again funded by many donations, including a grant from the state, we were able to create a wildlife corridor. So that's all green now, including the area outlined in yellow. But what I wanted to show you with this map is that area in yellow had to be defined on the ground by our volunteer boundary quest team.
Oh.
They had to find those corners. They had to find those lines. And you might not see it from that map, but that topography is a little challenging out there. It drops off in places. It runs down into wetland. You can see off to the east it actually borders Coy's Brook. That's that long meandering blue line you see off to the right.
Creek.
That's right. Coy's Brook is the major tributary to the Herring River, flowing eventually under Lothrop Ave and then down into Herring River. But not only was this land protected for protecting Coy's Brook and the Herring River downstream, but also, again, that wildlife habitat corridor north and south. But by understanding where the property lines are on the ground, we can better protect these properties long term. So they had to note on a map that might have been used in coordination with that aerial map you saw, those points on the ground that they found when they were out in the field. So it's very a methodical process, and I would say extremely beneficial to HCT's work. All volunteer. It's incredible.
Very good.
Yeah.
Now, where do you stand on that? Do they redo every year what they've done
That's
before?
an excellent question.
Or do they start anew?
That's an excellent question. They have their own list of priorities, priority properties that they're visiting. We work on that together to determine which areas of town, which properties that have been protected by HCT are the most important at this point in time to define the boundaries for. They will, as needed, revisit some of these properties that they have already found boundaries for to make sure that those markers I mentioned, those discrete posts in the ground at the specific corners, are still intact.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part they are. The idea behind putting those half-inch diameter, roughly setting about 10 inches above the surface of the ground at those points is that anybody can go out there, whether it's a boundary quest volunteer or a future property monitor, and quickly locate where these corners are. But it doesn't intrude on sort of the visual appeal in the landscape.
No, that's
you know. So it's a terrific, again, a terrific team, and they do excellent work.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Now, you have walks that are coming
We have walks coming up. Yeah, I did want to mention that. December 14th, Saturday, 10 a.m. If you want to explore the world of winter botany, please join botanist Rich Eldred, who is also the environmental feature reporter for the Cape Codder. And he just is a terrific resource for the world of botany. It will take place at the Texera Conservation Lands, owned by the town of Harwich, right off Queen Anne Road. Again, 10 a.m. Saturday, December 14th. We're going to have details on our website, harwichconservationtrust.org. Then, after that, we have on December 20th, Friday, a walk led by none other than the Town of Harwich Conservation Administrator, Amy Wazowski. And she's going to talk about the natural history of Bell's Neck. We might have a nice photo by Stephanie Foster of Bell's Neck. Look at that. Stephanie Foster, very own photographer and author from Harwich, takes some beautiful photos, donates them to Harwich Conservation Trust. That's looking north across West Reservoir to the northerly shore of Bell's Neck. Well, join Amy Wazowski on this walk, and you can learn more about the natural history of that area. Again, we'll have these posted on our website. And there are more walks coming up. So it's a great time of year to get out and about.
When is this latest walk? Is this
That one's going to be Friday, December 20th.
the 20th?
But she's going to lead another one in January or February.
Okay.
Again, we'll have these on our website soon, harwichconservationtrust.org.
Very good.
Yeah.
And you have winter talks
Coming up. We'll do a
Yes.
quick preview on those, yes. Well, we've got a great lineup coming in January, and we'll have more, probably one or two more in February. But as you know, at this wonderful community center, it's just a terrific venue for people to come together in the middle of winter and enjoy these fascinating talks about natural history or wildlife or other elements that we're so closely involved with at Harwich Conservation Trust. Rich Eldred, the botanist leading that walk on
Okay.
December 14th, is going to lead a talk about Cape Cod orchids.
Okay.
It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be on Saturday, January 4th, 2 p.m. All the talks are here at the community center, 2 p.m. Saturdays. For the specific schedule, again, visit the website. Suggested donation of $2 per person. We're not going to turn anybody away, though, because we want everybody to enjoy these talks.
Right.
January 11th, the following Saturday, 2 p.m., we're going to have a wildlife biologist from the state talk about bobcats.
Okay.
Now, you remember last year we had a biologist talk about the Cape Cod bear,
Yes,
which
the bear who
was amazing,
now gone.
right? That the bear came and went. Well, this past summer there was a confirmed sighting of a bobcat
Really?
in Falmouth.
Oh.
So, believe it or not, they have made an appearance. So we want to kind of get ahead of the curve and teach people about bobcats. So we're going to have the state's wildlife biologists to focus on bobcats here Saturday, January 11th, to share more about this this very interesting and secretive mammal. Then,
Now, before
Yeah.
you leave that one, is he still out there?
who knows?
Oh, he hasn't been caught.
Right.
I
Right.
see.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know.
Well,
But it
they're
was a
not-
confirmed sighting.
Yeah.
And actually, it was even caught on someone's YouTube video or
Very good.
camera. January 25th, 2 weeks after the Bobcat talk, again Saturday, 2 p.m. here, we're going to host Peter Trull. Now that talk is probably going to be $5 per person because we have to cover our expenses with that talk a little bit more so. Peter Trull is going to talk about plovers and that,
yes.
that dynamic tension between protecting natural resources and federally endangered shorebirds like piping plovers and others, balancing that with recreation, right? We hear about this in Orleans and Chatham and many other places.
Even in Harwich.
And in Harwich, people
Yeah.
getting very frustrated. I can understand that. People want to enjoy these beautiful places. That's why we're here. That's why people visit here and stay
Right.
here and live here. And so he's going to talk about that balancing act. And if you've been to a talk by Peter Trull, you know it's going to be provocative, and it's going to be entertaining, and it's going to be informative. And I'm sure it'll be a spirited presentation, along with some incredible photography, because he's a great photographer too. So it's going to be exciting talk. So there's a quick snapshot of what we have coming up for winter talks in January.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you guys are pretty busy.
Yes, it's great. It's
Very
great.
good. And
Yeah.
well,
Thank you so much, Paul.
it's our pleasure. Thank you for coming, and thank all of you out there for listening. So you can plan your January early through the 20th, anyhow, of what you might want to do. And in December, there's a series of walks. So keep all those things in mind, and thank you for bringing them to our attention, Michael.
Well, thank you.